everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with your final hot take of the evening. Gosh, I was scouring the internets for something to talk about. There's really not a lot going on, but there's a bunch of more little news stories that I couldn't jam in the first video. So how about we talk about them, huh, Joan? No movies, no good movies. I looked at a bunch of trailers and they're just poorly cut together. And half the time I see some of these trailers and the cool ones are like, oh, this is a fan made. I don't really want to talk about a fan made trailer. I got fooled a couple of times. But anyhow, let's do this. And if you have any suggestions for some videos, even if they are non-political or non-newsworthy, feel free to suggest them in the comments, especially screenwriting stuff or stuff about writing or whatever. I'd be happy to answer your questions or do a chat about it. But let's get into it. Tucker Carlson. Ooh, you all right? I got you. Tucker Carlson accuses Bank of America of treating customers like Al-Qaeda as he reveals it gave the FBI details of every customer who spent money on hotels or Airbnb, flights, and guns in D.C. around the time of the Capitol siege, as the Daily Mail calls it. I would call it the Capitol Hill riot, but that's just me. So, yeah, it's not surprising. They are perfectly fine to hand over records of people to the feds. They've been doing this. I mean, this was a big deal back during the Bush administration. You know, the feds were pressuring companies, especially phone companies, to give up this data and allow intrusive things so people can be spied upon. And now they're going through your financials. So, you know, let this all be a lesson to those of you who want to protest the elites. You cannot use anything that's traceable if you want to actually protest. You should, you know, take a page, unfortunately, out of Antifa and do the equivalent of Black Bloc when you do these sorts of things, because they are watching you. And, you know, now the new target has become Trump supporters and anybody even remotely connected to the Capitol Hill thing. So if you're going to go to protest, do yourself a favor. Don't announce it all over social media. Just go. Bring cash. Bring, you know, all the things you need, depending on the kind of protest it is. Don't go looking for a fight, but, you know, be prepared to run or, you know, have a mask, even if finally the beer virus thing ends. You know, you're going to need something to cover your face. You might want some bottles of water and some, like, power bars to get you through the day, because it's usually a long day. You have to be prepared to go to jail, usually for a day or two. Stuff like that. You know, just use common sense. And don't let these guys track you. You know? Don't let them track you. And they can track you through your phone. So understand that if you bring your phone, they'll find you if they need to. California town pays tourists $100 to come visit. This is how desperate these places are. The Visit Santa Maria Valley program is providing $100 in vouchers, which can be used at the town's wineries, breweries, and restaurants to tourists who stay there for at least 2 nights at hotels there. I didn't even know the hotels were open in California. I thought the whole place was locked down. But, you know, I guess at whatever capacity the tyrant governor Gavin Newsom has allowed you at, maybe you could squeak by and use that $100 for something. Biden, non-starter to think businesses can open and moving and thriving, can be open, moving and thriving without dealing with this pandemic. Well, according to a guy who's never done a day of work in his life and has been a politician, he's just really a parasite when you get right down to it. And you know, he's fine to close your businesses. It's not his money. What does he care? He gets his money from China. 11 Iranians arrested in Arizona after jumping U.S.-Mexico border. Now, I talked about this years ago. I don't know if I ever made a video about it, but I definitely was a warning about this. If you don't have control of your borders, you can have these guys come across your borders. I mean, why not? The borders, you can walk right across them. You can walk right across them in Canada, in certain places. You know, it's a lot snowier there, and so you expect us to rely upon the security guys in Mexico? No offense to the Mexican people, but we all know that your government's pretty corrupt. It's pretty corrupt. A lot of it's not your fault. Part of it's our fault. But you know, throw a few dollars around, and you'll get in the country. I assume. And once you're in Mexico, well, it's a small matter to walk across the border into the United States. So, especially now. So, I mean, say hello to more terrorist activity, I guess. And now that you idiots in Washington are targeting the Trump supporters, well, all they got to do is put on a MAGA hat and say, instead of saying death to America, say, I love America. And, well, you'll be looking for the wrong people anyway, right? So this is not a good sign. This is a sign we need the wall. And again, I'm not a big fan of the wall. I don't think it's the right solution for the immigration crisis, but it might have to be the right solution for the potential terrorist problem. If we get that again, God forbid, that starts to be a real thing. I mean, if the Iranians can send agents here to blow things up, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. U.S. warship expelled from the South China Sea by PLA forces. The superpower clash between China and the U.S. continued on Friday as a U.S. Navy ship sailed near the Chinese-controlled Paracel Islands in the heavily disrupted South China Sea, only to get a stern rebuke and what some would call an appropriate response from Beijing. The U.S.S. John S. McCain and Arleigh Burke-class destroyer entered the waters near the Paracel Islands Friday without China's permission on a, quote, freedom of navigation operation, the first known operation in a heavily disputed area under the new Biden administration. Shortly after, CGTN reported that the People's Liberation Army expelled the destroyer after it trespassed into China's territorial waters. Tian Junli, a spokesperson for the PLA Southern Theater Command, said the move seriously infringed China's sovereignty and security. He said PLA troops in the regions are on high alert at all times to protect the peace and stability of the region. Well, this is an interesting development. It could be that Biden is trying to show us that he's tough against the Chinese. See, I'm going to test their security. It's kind of a dangerous way to do it. You could end up with an incident that sparks a war. On the other hand, this may all be a show. He may have done that purposely so he can say he was tough. Or maybe he's trying to be tough. I don't know. Or it could just be a big dumb mistake. Could just be that the Navy wandered in there on the wrong thing. Could be they're on orders from before Biden got in. Who knows? But it's not good. Not good to just tempt fate like this. But it is a disputed area. But what's the Biden administration going to do? I mean, are we going to invade China? Seems like a dumb move. Seems like we could do a lot more, I don't want to say damage, but a lot more, we can get a lot more progress by going down the Trump route, by pushing a trade deal that benefits the United States and not China, by not doing business with them. But Biden's all about doing business with them, I assume. From Breitbart, CNN's Don Lemon, Chris Cuomo defend AOC. Well, these two idiots would. I believe it. The threat doesn't have to be real for you to believe it. Wow. Wow. These guys just get stupider every day. It's no wonder their ratings are in the toilet. Cuomo said, quote, "The story I was telling you about is when I got blown up in Iraq with my cameraman with the military police south of Baghdad. Here is my point. You go after AOC for her fear, saying it was illegitimate. No, that's not what people said. They said she lied and she wasn't even in danger." Continuing, "She was in the adjacent building." Okay, you acknowledge that. Not really adjacent, across the street. "You don't know what the hell you're talking about." "Oh, really? She was running." "Maybe she was. We think she's lying. She heard people saying, 'Where is she? Where is she?' She didn't know who those people were." "Why am I using my experience? Because when we were on that patrol and this captain was explaining that they're often weaponized and people start firing at us, they detonated their bodies." Oh, come on. Now you're going to compare what happened at Capitol Hill to people who had suicide vests? I mean, come on. You just keep talking about it like it was 9/11 if you want, but you're not going to change history just by talking about it. You won't. You won't. There's too many other people who will tell you otherwise. Maybe 20 years from now you can rewrite the history, but not now. It just happened. AOC has been humiliated. Here's some positive news. Exclusive interview. Hungary scrapping income tax for under 25-year-olds to support youth and families. Good for them. This is what you should do. I was saying this earlier. Maybe we need to extend childhood a little bit longer, and this could be a process. You know, you don't pay taxes until you hit 25. You're more established. You got a job. You're moving ahead. Maybe you're paid off some debt. I mean, this is a great thing. Good for Hungary. It's hard to do in the United States, boy. It's Democrats. They love their taxes. And finally, poll: 64% of Republicans, 15% of Democrats likely to join hypothetical new Trump-led party, according to the National File. The poll results indicate the overwhelming majority of the Trump hatred is coming from the political opportunists in the narrative-controlled sphere of the far left. Well, I could believe that. 15% sounds about right from the Democrats. When you put that together, you pretty much got a party there. And I think the Republican number in this survey is a little low. It's a little low. And I think that number would rise greatly if the new party started to coalesce. I think at first it would be like, oh God, you're going to split the party and destroy it. But when you got 75 million people that go right to the new party, that's a pretty big number. That's a number that almost won the election. You know, the most fair and perfect election, honk, honk, wink, wink. So you don't need that much more. If you get 75 million plus 15% of the Democrats, I think you got a winning team there. Although Trump's not making that noise. Of the 64%, a solid 32% said they were very likely join a new party, while 36% said they would be unlikely to leave the established Republican apparatus. Well, wait a minute. You said 60. You said the headline. Now you're conflicting. 64% of Republicans likely to join hypothetical new party. That's what you said. Now you're backing off on it. 28% of independents polled said they would likely join a new political party. Good. Okay. So I think we're up there. I think we got enough of a party here. Again, I would call it Patriot Party. I think that works. Patriot Party, America First Party. Either way, you're going to have to answer to Trump, Republicans. You're going to have to answer to Trump. And Trump, you got to get on Parler. You got to get on Gab. Dude, what are you doing? If you got on Gab, you'd be the king of Gab. The only reason I could think he's not on Gab, it would probably collapse the servers. They wouldn't have enough servers, and they're slowly ramping up. So maybe he's waiting for it to get to the point where he could get back on Gab, or maybe he's worried it would destroy Gab. I don't think it can because he owns everything. I hear he's a little wacky. There's a great video out today. It's the quartering, and Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, is the guest from the Lotus Eaters. So if you like Jeremy of the Quartering and Sargon, that's one not to be missed. It's a good crossover. They've talked before, but this is they haven't done this in a while, so it's a great thing. Sargon's promoting the Lotus Eaters, and they're talking about everything, including that Time magazine article. But yeah, I think Trump definitely needs to get on Gab, and they were saying on that crossover that the Gab guy is a little nutty, but so what? So what? Get on it, and definitely get on Parler. Same thing. I mean, he could get on Parler and Gab, and both of them would probably grind to a halt as the millions of people would try to get on, and Twitter would just be done, just done. I mean, I think it's mostly done anyway. Oh, and one final news story I meant to click over on Twitter anyway. Andy No is covering what's going on in D.C. BLM Antifa are marching through D.C. chanting, burn it down, burn it down. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on. The usual stuff. Not as Bernie as before, but definitely not great. These commies are going to get what's coming to them. That's a one thing we can rely on. They're not going to be welcomed as they were before by the Biden people. Suddenly they're gonna find reasons to uphold the law. So good luck, idiots. I told you. That's it for me and Joan. We will see you tomorrow, right, little Joan?